Linguistic presuppositions. It is important to notice the difference between what is being presupposed in a communication and what you assume or think you know based on your interpretation of the communication through all of your filters. You remember we spoke about filters earlier. Most of the time during casual conversations, this is not so important and you can live comfortably with your understanding. There are times when it is very important for you to fully understand the meaning the communicator is conveying. In a business, coaching or counseling session, for example, in these situations, we may need to challenge the presuppositions to be able to be fully duplicate the meaning and appropriate emotions concerned. There are also many situations where you leave the conversations with completely the wrong meaning of what was being communicated. Similarly, you as the talker, you as the communicator, need to make sure your communication is not full of ambiguous language patterns. So let us now look at the main linguistic presuppositions so we can recognize it in our and others' speech. So let's look at the first of these, the presupposition of existence. This is probably the easiest of the presuppositions to recognize. This is normally a noun or proper thing or person. And saying not also brings the item into existence as well. For example, it's not a tree. This statement will bring a tree into your thought. Often, instead of being precise, we say him, her, they, it, and other words. So if you do not know who or what the speaker is referring to, challenge and ask. Don't always assume. So the presupposition of possibility and impossibility. These are words or sets of words that indicate that you can or you cannot do something. So whether they're positive, you can, or negative, you can't. So the positive words are words like can, could, should, must, will, might, and similar. All are examples of a positive. Some of the negative words you could use are can't, couldn't, won't, will not, and similar examples of negative words. These language patterns are also called modal operators. Modal operators indicate the energy required, whether you're just going to do it or you really must do it, or you can't do it at all, or maybe you could do it. So these are the presupposition of possibility and impossibility. So next we have cause and effect. And this, to put it very simply, is that something will cause something to happen. Cause and effect. Cause and effect will often expose the communicator's beliefs because they believe something will happen because of a certain cause. Cause and effect can be great fun. Anything can cause something else. Listening to the communicator's cause and effect gives you a great opportunity to challenge the example in the way, does whatever this causes, does that always mean this effect? Maybe it could mean something else. So cause and effect. Now let us look at complex equivalent. Now, complex equivalent is making something equal to something else, even though they can be completely different objects. It's similar to cause and effect. Anything can mean or equal something else. They also contain some of the linguistic structure of how we speak our beliefs. They allow you to link unrelated ideas in a way that's hard to argue with, or the ideas were unrelated until you brought them together in this way. Some common complex equivalents are: you looking at me like that means you like me, or you don't like me. So this is complex equivalence. Okay, now let's look at the linguistic presupposition of awareness. Now this presupposition brings things, places, people, all into your awareness. They use words like notice, aware, realize, understand, experience, look, hear, etc., and similar words. These again may be challenged for clarity. For example, where exactly do I have to look? As the speaker, you can casually bring unknown things into the listener's awareness. For example, I will ask my assistant to do that for me. That is now brought into the awareness of your listener an existence of an assistant. So this is the presupposition of awareness. Now let's look at the presuppositions of time and space. Now these presuppositions will give the listener an indication of where and when. And I have to tell you that these are presuppositions that are often misunderstood. Some time words are in themselves very ambiguous, such as in a moment, see you later, tomorrow, sometime later, and other similar words. Space here refers to a particular or precise location. Time can also refer to ordinals, lists, such as now we will do this and later we will do that. So time and space is another important linguistic presupposition. Okay, so now we have adjectives and adverbs. I will always think when I'm doing this particular linguistic presupposition that I'm now back at school. So let's just remind ourselves, adverbs modify the verb. Verbs, you remember from school, are doing words. So adverbs can often explain how to do the verb. For example, quickly, quickly run. Adjectives enhance and or modify the noun. For example, a good lunch or dinner, a good person. Changing the adjective and or adverb can have great effect on the listener. Always be aware of how you increase your impact with the good use of adjectives and adverbs. You also make people much more interested in what you've got to say. Salesmen particularly have a good command of very clever adjectives and adverbs. So, linguistic presupposition, adjectives and adverbs. So now we come to the inclusive or exclusive or. Now, the key point here is, are you or are you not included in the conversation? This is not always so obvious. For example, many people don't understand this, etc. Is the communicator including you or not in the many? Are you one of the many or are you not? This is also the basis of double binds, which we'll cover later. Will you sign now or later today? Will you pay by cash or check? Both of these give the impression that you have choice, but in fact there's no choice. So you can see This or has many uses in both the communicator and the listener. So that is the inclusive or exclusive or. Now the last one on this list is ordinals. We've already referred to ordinals earlier on in our list, but this is any communication that includes a list or a lot of specific items in a specific order. You can identify ordinals with words like before, during, after, later, first, second, last, and such forth. Some ordinals are hidden within the overall sentences. So before we finish with linguistic presuppositions, we must consider when we will use them both by listening and communicating. So you can see how an ordinal can be well hidden. So let's now put this all together. I hope now that you are beginning to understand the linguistic part of Neuro Linguistic Programming. This is the starting point of a full understanding of what the other person is not only saying, but also an understanding of what the person may not be saying. As you progress through your NLP practitioner program, we will be building on these linguistic presuppositions so that you can easily make specific changes in your and your client's model of the world. So I've hoped you've enjoyed this short presentation on linguistic presuppositions. Thank you for listening.